Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Man, we have not taught a Friday class in maybe a year. It's been a long time. But it's a special class with a special partner, a special time of year. So we're so excited that you're here. We had over 1,300 people sign up for Clams and Puttanesca, spaghetti and clams and Puttanesca. Mind-blowing. Like, sometimes when we put seafood on the menu here at Homemade, our expectations aren't that high. But this one struck a chord, and I'm so happy because it's a brand new partner, and this recipe is so snappy, it's so approachable, it's so freaking delicious. You guys already won the lottery by being here. Your minds are going to be blown by the offers. Your minds are going to be blown by the recipe. This is going to be such a good one. But first and foremost, welcome to Homemade. I'm Joel Gamron, the head chef and founder of Homemade, and I'm going to be your clam Sherpa today, taking you through the ins and outs of everything that has to do with clams, but really seafood in general. We're going to talk a lot about seafood, sustainability, how to pick it all out, how to treat it, all that good stuff. And our partners today, the amazing, the iconic, the most, I think, like our dream partner in the world, the Fulton Fish Market out of New York City. If you've heard of them, raise your hand. They are, everybody. So everyone's already heard of them. We're good. They've been around for 200 years. Definitely the most heritage brand we've ever partnered with. When you work with a brand who's been around for 50 years, there's legitimacy there. For 100 years, you think, oh, that's the Godfather. For 150 years, that's the OG. For 200 years, you're Moses. You created the world. Like, that is like a different level. So they are, when it comes to seafood, the bar. They're the bar. And we're going to talk about why, but super excited to dive into this. We would love to know where in the world you are beaming in from. So put it in the chat. Where in the world are you located? While everyone's kind of loading in, we always give it a little bit of time. We know it takes a minute. This is all meant to be interactive. So you can ask me questions in real time. We have Ariana from the Fulton Fish Market who is on the call. So you can actually DM her. She's under Ariana Fulton Fish Market. And you can ask her questions. And if you have questions about the recipe or the ingredients, we've got the amazing, the gorgeous, the peppy, the talented. Should I just keep going?
Yes. Keep going.
Chef Jenny in the chat. So you have me right here live, and you have Jenny in the chat. If you want to talk to me live, we just require that you put on your video camera, even if you're not cooking, just to make sure it's you, but also just to connect in a deeper way. And with that said, if you're here right now, I don't care if you're picking your nose in a muumuu or on the couch, throw on your camera, because there might be some perks for those of you who decide to do that tonight. That's all. I'm just tickling that idea. So it's a no-brainer. Throw on your camera, participate. I see Christine, Gary, Jenny, Deborah. I don't care if you walk away and you have to take care of something. You can come back, throw on that camera. It's going to be worth it. But first and foremost, let's dive in. A lot of you guys who do know me know I studied in Italy and I live in Seattle. So when I see a pasta with a seafood element, it's like I had a baby and it has a bar mitzvah, and today is the day we celebrate it. Okay, so it's a very, very big day for me. I also am just a big fan of pastas that take no time. This is a Tuesday night rock star dish. Puttanesca is spicy, it's briny, it's got just chutzpah and character all the way around it. So if you are looking for a pasta dish that checks every box, time, flavor, everything, you've arrived. You're here. It's going to be beautiful. We're going to talk everything clams today. Raise your hand real quick or throw it in the chat. I just want to know, like, just on average, how often do you even eat clams? And cooked clams, I'm going to guess most people hardly ever do it, because I know that's true. But throw it in the chat. Once a month? Twice a year? Like, I'm just curious. I want to see what you guys say. Yeah, 3 times a year. couple times a year. Deborah, as often as possible. Me too. 4 times a year. Okay. This is what I'm talking about. Either we never eat it, or it's like a special occasion, which makes no sense because this is not expensive. Clams are so approachable as it relates to price. And when it comes to cooking, they have a built-in thermometer. They tell you when they're done. They're the easiest things to cook in the world, and it takes less than 3 minutes to cook them till perfection. So it is super important that we start eating clams more often. And you can get these clams and the way that we have partnered with Fulton Fish Market on their website. So go to their website. We're going to put it in the chat. But I'll just give you a little insight. As a chef, I've worked in many restaurants. Chefs get way better ingredients than we do at home. We get better carrots, we get better chickens, and we sure as heck get better seafood. The reason why is because A, we have these ongoing relationships with the vendors, so our quality is super high, and they obviously want to keep us around. And B, they cannot do us wrong. If they send us bad clams, if they send us bad fish, it goes right on back to them. So Fulton Fish Market has been doing this for 200 years. They're a wholesaler that turned retailer so we can all benefit on them. They are used to chef quality. So what that means is they have fishmongers in their warehouse hand selecting clams, mussels, shrimps, salmon, tilapia, whatever you want that comes out of the ocean. You have curators, stewards that used to only be for restaurants, but now is for home cooks. So incredible benefits. We're going to talk about why their stuff is so insane, but the quality is on a different level. And when I tell you this, you're going to just be like, there's no possible way. So you've already won the lottery because every single person in this class is getting a $50 store credit emailed to you. Give a round of applause for Fulton Fish Market. That is ridiculous. So everyone here has to try it, see the quality, and you can take my word for it or not, but you're going to be cooking Fulton Fish Market in the next couple of weeks. It's a no-brainer. So you'll get that email. Don't worry about it. And then there's this amazing rewards program. You can subscribe. We'll talk all about that. Really, the possibilities are endless. All right. So first and foremost, clams. If you're intimidated about them, I'll first say, if this was chicken, I wouldn't be touching it and then smearing it on my face. People are worried. It's raw seafood. These are alive. They're not going to bite you. These are little neck clams. But it's not like chicken or beef or steak or pork or that type of thing. You can touch these and then touch other things. So immediately, there should be a less of intimidation to cook clams versus meats, right? It's not got that same thing. These are beautifully cleaned. Again, incredible quality. But we do want to get inside because they live in the water. And they live in the water and they kind of soak up water. They open up briefly and then they shut. And they soak up and they shut. And because of that, sometimes sand gets into the shells. So we have to do what's called burping the clams. And I've got a baby, and just saying burping anything right now is bringing PTSD back to my life. But we have to burp them, which means we have to kind of bring the ocean back to them so that they open up like they're in the ocean and let go of their sand. Really easy, right? So what do you got to do? You got to create a little mini ocean. Easy. Salt and water. That's the ocean. We're easy peasy. So first and foremost, you get your clams from Fulton Fish Market. The first thing you want to do is take them out and put them in the fridge. And as long as they're shut tight, I always inspect them, and you'll notice with Fulton, you don't see cracks. Sometimes when you go just to the grocery store, you see an insane amount of cracks. If there's a crack, you have to throw it out. With Fulton, because there's people hand inspecting it, almost none of them have cracks. Of course, occasionally there might be the little outsider, so you just want to be careful. But with Fulton, I've noticed the seafood just comes pristine. And so you want to look for cracks. Cracks means, unfortunately, it's not alive anymore, so you throw it away. Same thing with mussels. But if they're tightly shut, like this, and they're not opening, and by the way, if they're a little open, I don't have one that is because these are all perfect, but if they're a little open, you can always tap them like this, like knock on their shell, And then if they close, that means they're alive, obviously. And if they don't close, that just means that they're no longer alive and no longer edible. So I just want to pause there. That was a ton of information. Any questions on that, like knowing the quality of the clams, all that good stuff? How are we doing in the chat, Miss Jenny?
Looking good, Chef. A lot of great burping jokes.
A lot of great burping jokes. Perfect. That's what we need on a Friday.
Oh, I got one.
Oh, you got? Okay,
Yeah,
bring it.
asking if should we wash them first.
No, so you do not need to wash the clams. Another step saved. This will do all the washing for you. So check it out. Clams on the board. You do not need to measure this. Just grab a handful of salt. You want to make it, salty. So just kind of imagine what that would be. And then cold water. Not hot, because that might steam them a little bit. Just cold water. And all of a sudden, they are back home. They're home in their little beds, feeling great, right? In their nice water with their salt. It takes about 30 minutes to burp them. If that was true with my baby, I would go absolutely nuts. Actually, sometimes it is. But this is how long it takes, about 30 minutes. I just give them a quick toss in my water. And literally, you just let them sit in the fridge for, again, 30 minutes. Now, I wouldn't go longer than like 2 hours. So you kind of want to do this close to when you're going to serve it, if that makes sense. If you go much longer, they start to take in the salt water, and sometimes they just become a little too salty for me. 30 to 2 hours, 30 minutes to 2 hours is about burping time action. Make sense to everybody? Easy. That's how you clean a clam. That's it. It's as easy as pouring water. If you can pour water, you can clean a clam. Love that. So I think the first question is, well, what if you want to eat these raw? Which, by the way, I don't really see on the West Coast that much, but I see it a ton on the East Coast. When I lived there in New York, I'd go to like weddings, and there would be like raw clams on a platter, and it would be like, I was like, what is that? Why is it raw clam? And it would be right next to the oysters, and they were always so just milky, delicious, silky. They just had this light ocean flavor. So we do, for this, use a special tool. This is a clam shucking knife. It's different than an oyster knife. Okay, an oyster shucker is it's duller on both sides. It's a little thicker. This has to be thin on one side because it has to slide into the shell. Now, you don't have to be too worried about it. It's thin, but it's not sharp, so it's not going to hurt you, right? But if you are going to, and I know a lot of people will not eat them on the half shell like this, but you absolutely can from Fulton because they're so fresh. But the way you do it is you just kind of lay it in your palm with a little notch towards your belly button, like that. And then you take the little shucking knife and you kind of fit it into it. And you kind of have to find a little opening. And then you take some fingers and you kind of just press it in. And by the way, it's kind of like an electronic. If you keep forcing it and it doesn't work, go to a different one. This one is so tight. I'm going to steam this with my recipe. But you kind of want to find ones with easy notches to open up. So ones that you can kind of slide in there, no problem. Take your fingers. And it could be because I'm burping these, but come on, baby. Come to Papa. We're shucking a couple of these today. These are the tightest ones I've ever seen. And again, tight, like I just want you guys to see, that's quality. Like if you can't find an opening, I'm putting those back for the steam. That's part of the problem. We're going to get one of these that is loose enough for us to actually open up. All right, so you kind of hold. Come on, baby. They're so tight. Okay, we might have to let them burp and open up a little bit, but yeah. So again, if you're forcing it like I am, don't. Save them all. I'm going to keep going. I can't stop. This is an addictive thing. You got to find that notch. This is why I love We're Live. You guys get to watch a chef struggle too. They're too tight. We're going to open up one, don't you worry. But it takes practice. It really does. I mean, oysters themselves, and you guys can see I'm just adding these tight ones to already burped ones. Oysters themselves, much easier to open. That's why I think you don't see clams on the half shell. But once you get into it, it really becomes easy. You have to just find looser ones. And I have seen some chefs, to make it easy, there we go. I've seen some chefs put a little bit of hot water over the top of the clams just to slightly open them and help you out. But I find that that's, like, the purists are not about that. All right, so we're in. And then this is a little trick. I like to take a little strainer. You don't have to, but I open the shell over the strainer. So I kind of wiggle the knife like this, and then I kind of open it up, and then you're going to see it's just juice. Beautiful, raw. Look at the color of that. That incredible kind of coral orange. And because there's kind of an edge on this little opening knife, you can kind of almost lightly cut it away from one of the shells. But the idea is to hold as much as that brine in there as possible. And that you could put on a big crushed ice plate and serve with champagne or whatever you want. I'll open up more later. But again, you can always save the juice for clam chowders, things like that. I'm going to slurp that down in a second. So we'll open up some more later, but really what today is about this Puttanesca. And this is the way I'm used to cooking clams here on the West Coast. So first and foremost, we're going to do it with some spaghetti. If you overcook the spaghetti, I'm calling it out. You've done Fulton Fish Market a disservice. Do not overcook your spaghetti. I want it chewy. I want it al dente. I want it just perfectly right. So if you're curious on what that means and how to do that, look on the box. If it says 10 minutes, cook it for 9. Just subtract a minute. That's it. That's all I care about. Subtract a minute. You don't need to do this with spaghetti, but I think it's the best noodle for it. It really takes to the flavor. All right, so I've got some boiling water here, and I'm going to add an absurd amount of salt. Hello. You guys are all like, what is did you call your heart doctor? What's going on over there? You really want this to be overly salty. This is what seasons the pasta. All right, this is a huge problem at home. People do not season their pasta enough. We are not really going to salt our sauce, maybe a little, but the seafood is going to bring the brininess. So this is our one chance to get a little bit of salt into this pasta. So what I like to do is take my pasta, and instead of just dropping it in, I kind of take it and I twist it. So I take my thumb and pointer finger and I touch on top, and I do the same thing on the bottom, and I go opposite ways. And that way, when I drop it, it spreads. And that's a really, really good trick for those of you who have pasta that sticks together. You do not need to put olive oil in your pasta water. I'm calling that out right now. If you do, it's a waste of olive oil. It's not going to do anything. So the pasta has dropped, and you can see it's just evenly falling down into the pot. That is a nice cook right there, and you can kind of help it a little bit. Cool. All right, I want to pause for a sec, take some questions. If we've got them, how we doing?
All right, we got a couple of questions, Chef.
By the way, did you guys hear a little gabagool come out? Like, I don't know why, but
know.
like a little
What
something
just
came
happened
out there. All right, yes, question.
First and foremost, if you can't find little necks, can you use other clams in this dish?
Yes, okay, yes. So a lot of people can't find little necks, but again, on Fulton Fish Market, you can find anything you need. You hear things like cherry stones. You hear things like top necks. A lot of them are the same thing, which really in the Northeast, it's really called quahogs, right, or Atlantic hard shells. So kind of the same thing. All those will work. I tend to leave the bigger ones for when I cook because it has a lot of juice, and like you can see, they're a little harder to shuck. The small ones, so the larger ones I cook, the small ones I like to eat raw. They're a little sweeter, right? Just like fruit. Like if you find a small grape, they tend to be sweeter than a large grape. It's the same thing in seafood. When you find small fishes, they tend to bring a little bit more sweetness, like small shrimp versus jumbo shrimp, that type of thing. Hopefully that helps. Do you have another question? Miss Jenny, you said you had multiple? Or are we okay?
Yes, and can we just kind of go over one more time about whether or not you can eat clams raw?
Oh, yeah. So 100% you can eat clams raw as long as they're alive when you shuck them. So it goes back to that quality control. You can see it took me about 4 clams to get through because they were so tightly shut, which means, honestly, that's the best quality you can get. So it doesn't mean that if you can shuck a clam, it's bad quality. It just means that we have top-notch clams here. But bottom line is, if there's any cracks whatsoever, it is not good to consume raw. Not good to consume cooked either. So that's just the key. No cracks. That's it. And by the way, I've accidentally put cracked seafood in food before, and I'm still here. I'm still kicking. So I don't want you guys to feel like, oh my God, I see a micro crack. What do I, like, oh, it's going to be okay. Everyone's going to live. It's not the end of the world. It's more when you see it like busted or, absolutely obvious that you really need to worry. And you see it a little bit more in mussels than clams. Cool. All right. So we're going to get some ingredients ready for this puttanesca. This is where I have to watch my mouth a little bit. What does puttanesca mean? Jenny just starts laughing. Does anyone know what puttanesca means or where it comes from?
Ruh-roh.
Let's see. Throw it in the chat. We no one said this wasn't going to be PC. Oh, Michael raised his hand. Oh, no. Michael, bring it.
Well, it may be colloquial, but and maybe it's real or not. But supposedly it is the pasta of the prostitutes. And theoretically, it was said that between business connections, how's that expression? They needed something quick to make. And so that was the origin of the puttanesca.
I'm dying over here between the business connections, between meetings. They got to make some puttanesca.
Liaison.
They were busy. They were busy. Yes,
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. Yes, it's exactly where it comes from. It's kind of the pasta of the brothels, believe it or not. And Michael, you said that perfectly and very PC, so thank you for that. So absolutely. I mean, this is what it's all about. It's fast. It's also punchy. I think that has something to do with the history too, at least my Italian chefs kind of taught me that, but it is kind of a naughty pasta, which I like about it. That makes me excited about it. So I've got some garlic. I've got about 4 cloves of garlic. And in this type of pasta, you almost want to slice the garlic versus chop it. You can chop it, but traditionally in a puttanesca in Italy, it's more sliced. And it's okay if it kind of breaks down like that. That's not the end of the world. You just don't want to have like pulverized garlic. There's no reason to use a garlic press here. You just want to tuck your fingers back and kind of almost cut little coins of garlic. And I like to kind of hold the little edge of the garlic where the little notches that you're not going to eat, although you can. It's kind of my center point. Oh, so 4 cloves of garlic is what we've got. You guys who know me know I find garlic, I treat it like I treat my seafood. I'm only going to use the best garlic, which is off the clove, not already chopped up in a jar, not already peeled, although the already peeled is acceptable, but I really can taste the difference between already peeled and right off the cloves themselves. This looks great. All right, so I'm just every once in a while kind of stirring my pasta, making sure nothing crazy is about to go down. We're all good. So I've got my garlic doing its thing, and then we're just kind of preparing everything else. So I've got some olives. You can get them studded with these little roasted peppers, or not at all, but I like green olives. They tend to go really good with seafood. I find that, the brininess of the olive works really nice with the clam itself. Like they kind of just have that similar vibe. And with the olive, I don't cut them. I just take my thumb and I squish them. And I like the rusticness of this. Homemade is all about not being perfect. So I like that it's more like bite-sized random pieces versus like perfect little circles. To me, that looks like a machine made it. So just kind of take your thumb and crush it against the board. So easy, right? And again, if you don't have the little stuffed olives, you're still golden. Nothing crazy is going to happen there. Beautiful. Now on to a controversial ingredient that Fulton carries. Shall we say anchovies? Oh, in my house, my wife and I down anchovies. They are so rich in iron, vitamin D. This is one of the best foods in the world for you. But I know that if it's not in a Caesar salad, no one likes it. Let's just call a spade a spade. Let's not pretend. When you put an anchovy in a sauce, it's like a Caesar salad. You don't necessarily taste the anchovy. It just gives it this round saltiness that like you can't put your finger on. And when you look at these anchovies, if I got that $50 for my first order on Fulton Fish Market, this would be my first purchase. These are stunning. You can go to any grocery store in the country and not find anchovies of this quality. They are huge. You can actually make up the fish that it is. Oop, don't want to waste that oil. And you can see they just break apart. They're so tender. They've just been sitting in this really high quality olive oil. These make Puttanesca what it is. I love this recipe because of the anchovies. Beautiful. So I'm going to remove my pasta. I'm going to let it hang out. Now, you can drain it, but I want you to save a little bit of that pasta water. All right. I'm going to grab a couple towels here. And you can also grab like a bowl if you want and just kind of remove the pasta. I'll do that for you guys. I think that's what most people will do. So again, I kind of cooked it 8 minutes. Mine called for 9. But I'm literally just going to pull it out. And I'm going to keep the pasta water around. We all know pasta water, man, it's starchy, it's creamy, and it can really be the base of an incredible pasta. If you like cacio e pepe, that is all that recipe is. It's almost like no dairy. I mean, there's some cheese in it, but it's really about the pasta water. Now, this will stick together, so you can add a little bit of oil over the top, or you can just dunk it in your pasta water a little bit later on. But I'm going to take my spaghetti, push it to the side for right now, and grab this pasta water and just put it also to the side. All right, I want to slow down a sec, make sure we're all with each other. How we all doing? Jenny?
Yes, chef.
How we doing out there?
Well, can we give some fish alternatives for anchovies and some non-fish alternatives? Because we're pretty divided over here about anchovies.
So fish alternatives, I would say sardines, obviously. I would also say mackerel, which you can all find on Fulton Fish Market's website. So all of those are options, all super healthy. If you don't eat fish, or if you don't eat fish, this is probably the wrong class for you. But if you don't eat anchovies, because you just can't do it, which I get it, but I really don't. Capers are great, and also fish sauce, if you're willing to do it, like Vietnamese, Thai fish sauce. A couple of shakes of those will do okay too. If you absolutely don't do any of it, you could go with soy sauce. I just don't think it brings the saltiness, I guess. It doesn't bring the whole package. Call a spade a spade. Sometimes it's hard to replace things. All right. So I got a big skillet that I'm heating up on a medium-high heat, and I want to go with a ton of olive oil. This thing doesn't even pour even remotely as fast as I want it to pour. I would like dump this thing out. This thing, you just want to shake a good like quarter cup of olive oil on the base of this pan. Now, we're not going to try and fry our first ingredients. We almost want to sweat them. So I'm going to start with some garlic. All of my 4 cloves of garlic are going right in. And you'll notice they're not sizzling. They're kind of almost steeping. And they'll start to sizzle. We'll get there. But right off the bat, you don't want them to be fried. You don't want them to get bitter. I'm going to add some red pepper flakes. You know, that's the stuff you get in your pizza box. Nothing crazy. You can use a fresh chili if you want. And I'm literally just going to start to kind of like let these sweat and start to kind of do their thing. You know, you want to see a little bit of movement, but not a lot, right? And then you can start to kind of heat it up. But the longer that these 2 ingredients stay in the oil, the longer the oil picks up these 2 ingredients. So I can see it starting to bubble. And this is where I grab 4 of my Fulton anchovies, and I just crumble. And you might be thinking, no way, I'm out. You are so in. You are trying this. You're going to use that $50, and you are going to be obsessed with this recipe. It is incredible. You will not taste anchoviness. And by the way, when I see this oil, this nectar on the bottom of the can, you better believe. Hello. That's going in. All right. So turn it up a little bit just so you get a little bit of a sizzle going. And now we are building the base to our puttanesca. Really delicious. We're going to cook high in a second. Cook really high. But now you can start to see a little bit of movement in the garlic. You can kind of use the back of your spoon and start busting up the anchovies. Really, really good. By the way, I just want everyone to remind, I've got my starchy pasta water hanging out right next to me. I'm going to put a ladle in it. It's coming back later. All right, I want to cook along with you guys. So how are we doing at home? Has everyone got their garlic, chili flakes, and their anchovies into the olive oil and starting to kind of get that going? I'm on like a 6 out of 10, maybe a 6 out of 10. How are we doing? Let me just tell you, this kitchen right now hasn't smelled this good in a long time. We made roasted chicken a couple nights ago too, and it smelled amazing. But when I smell garlic, chili flakes, and anchovies, I know something good's happening. I know something good's happening. And, you know, you have that feeling with Fulton. It's like when anything's been around for 200 freaking years, let's just call a spade, something good is happening. Like, you don't have to look into it any more than that. They've been doing something good. They started underneath, I think, the Fulton Bridge or something a long time ago. You can find, like, documentaries on Fulton Fish Market. And just in 2015 did they launch their website. So it's new that they're able to get this quality seafood all over the country. And I think, I don't know, with the holiday coming up, enough with the birds, the hams, all that, having a little seafood really balances out, I think, a week. And we don't talk about it enough, but this is the most healthy option when it comes to a protein. Things like clams, shrimp, salmon, incredible, incredible sources of so many antioxidants. It's unbelievable. Not to mention, they only go with the most sustainable sources. All right. So now I'm going to blast the heat. Once this anchovies have kind of broken down, and you can start to see the garlic kind of start to turn brown, this is when you want to blast the heat. All right? And the very first thing I want to go in with is some white wine. We got the question the other night, like, what kind of white wine would I use in cooking? I personally like a really dry white wine, Pinot Grigio, Sauv Blanc. I don't go with the big butter bomb Chardonnays, things like that. I think they just become too much. So I'm just going to take this until the point where I see that garlic and anchovy turning brown. We're about 10 seconds away. You just want to wait for that last little moment. Because again, the longer this sits in that oil, the better this recipe is going to come out. Beautiful. I don't know if you guys can hear it's popping. Starting to smell on a different level and concentrate. So here we go. In with our white wine. And at this point, you can scrape the bottom and get all that goodness off. And the white wine is kind of our first moment of seeing this sauce come together. Incredible. Go in with a handful of capers. Squeeze them as they go in so they kind of pop. Go in with those crushed olives. I told you this was going to happen fast. Beautiful. Kind of stir that around. I love it. This is my type of cooking. High heat, incredible flavor, good for you. Amazing. Now, if you're not doing noodles, obviously the zoodles work. You can just make this without the noodles. You can just put the clams into this sauce and serve it on top of rice, on top of vegetables, on top of whatever you want, mashed potatoes. The world is your clam. See what I did there? And so really, really, this is a versatile dish. Versatile dish. All right, this is coming together incredibly. And at this point, once that wine, you can kind of smell it. Put your nose down into it. And when you stop feeling the burn on your nose and you can just smell the wine, that is when you're in really good shape to add some San Marzano tomatoes. Again, simple pasta, phenomenal ingredients, starting with our Fulton clams. So I take whole tomatoes like this, and I just hold them right over the top, and I just start crushing. We call for a 28-ounce can. You can go with the whole can, you can go with half. I'm going to go with about half. You can go with more if you want it more juicy. No. You know what, Jenny? You kill me if I only go with half. I'm going the whole thing. You can go with the juice in there too. All right. Give my hands a quick wash. I'll be right back. So at this point, the tomatoes are in. Blast the heat if you haven't already. Blast the heat and let those just kind of fold in to the mix here. We're not adding any salt to this. The clams themselves have this briny sweetness that bring the salt. So the only salt really is coming from those anchovies and the salt we added to the pasta originally. Look at this sauce, man. It is so dynamic. I like to leave a little chunkiness in those tomatoes, but up to you. Up to you. All right. How we doing, party people? Any question on our little buddy here? I want to call out a couple of other little offers here. So first and foremost, after you use this $50 store credit, first-timers will get 1,000 loyalty points. So you'll immediately get 1,000 loyalty points, which is kind of equivalent to like $10. So like even by using the $50 store credit, you will get like $10 back. You'll get they have the most amazing loyalty program in the world. Now in your second order, you get 2,000 loyalty points, so $20 off. So they don't really stop. They just want you to keep trying new things because, and you see this with companies who are confident in what they do, they know you're going to come back. They know you're going to try it, you're going to open up that box, and you're going to say, I'm not going to the market anymore. It's not on the same level. I'm going to just go to Fulton. Like you're just going to turn to Fulton. And that's what happens over and over and over again. This looks amazing, by the way. Oh, I'm just breaking up the tomatoes a little bit with the spoon. Again, I like to keep it a little bit on the big side. Doesn't have to be, but... And I'm all the way high now. You can turn your heat all the way high once your wine and your tomatoes are in. So you can see it's really starting to bubble and do its thing. Amazing. All right. I've got some parsley. Well, actually, wait. How are we doing on questions? Yeah. Please.
First, Debbie has a question.
Yeah, please.
Hello.
Hi. How are you?
Hi. Doing good, thank you.
Good, Debbie.
So we were wondering, are there actually like freshwater clams as well as saltwater? And if there are, is it okay to eat both of them raw?
I have never heard of freshwater clams, so I don't know the answer to that. I've never heard of it. I only know saltwater clams. So you're talking like a lake clam or something like that. I don't know. I know that like crawfish can live in a lake, so it's possible. That's another shellfish, but I don't think so. So I don't know the answer on eating it raw. Good question.
Okay.
I have to look that up now.
My husband heard you talking about eating clams raw.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, no, not if they're fresh. And then he backed it up. He goes, well, are there fresh clams? Freshwater clams?
They're fresh if they're alive. That's all you got to say. And when it comes to seafood, if you can get them alive, it's always the freshest. And so when Fulton ships it to you and they're already alive, bingo. The question is like, okay, if you get clams, you'll see this a lot in the grocery store now, clams out of their shell, right, or frozen. Those you don't want to eat raw, right? Those are ones that you want to cook, saute up, that type of thing. But these that are in the shell, absolutely. As long as they're tight, you're good to go.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, great question. Stumper. All right. At this point, the marriage happens. So I've let the tomato sauce cook for about a couple of minutes, and I lift my now cleaned clams out, and I just kind of place them wherever I want them to. Right? Just on their sides, on their notch, wherever you want it. These are big clams. They're going to take about 3 minutes, maybe a little longer to steam. But you're just tucking them into bed. And when they open up, they're done. That's why I said they have like a built-in thermometer. When they open up, they're literally done. It tells you. It's kind of like shrimp, right? When they turn pink, they're done. A way to kind of expedite this and make this a little faster is to throw a lid over the top. And that just shoots the moisture down back over the clams allowing them to have a little more heat and open up a little faster. But the goal is, if I walked away from this and went and did another project or did something else, you cook these and they get really tough. I mean, more than a couple of minutes in the pan and they really start to get chewy, right? Like the way calamari does, or shrimp does, or mussels. So right when they open, you kind of want to babysit them and just hang out. Right when they open is kind of when you want to add your pasta and bring the whole thing together. So we're going to get our parsley, which we're going to add at the very end, just to add some brightness and some really just beautiful pop of green. And I'm going to use stems and all. So I start at the stem, and I want to cut these fairly small. I remember the first restaurant I ever interviewed at, and he said, make me a dish that you would be impressed with. I said, okay. So I made him a parsley fresh pasta with clams. And I remember he ate it, the chef, and he spit it out. And I'm like, what's the problem? He's like, no, this isn't working. I go, what's the deal? And he said, it has to be dry pasta. It can't be fresh pasta. That doesn't work with clams. I go, why not? He was like, that's just the way it is. Obviously, I didn't get the job, but I totally disagree, because that fresh pasta acts like a sponge, and it just soaks up so much of what the clams give. I get having a little bit of bite from your dry pasta is a thing. I'm totally all about it. But I like the idea. It was a green pasta with a little bit of clams. It was so delicious, but he didn't love it. I'll never forget him. Glad I didn't get the job, buddy, wherever you are. All right, I'm just going to run my knife through two more times. Again, we don't want to pulverize this parsley. Just chop it enough. Otherwise, you really lose the flavor. This looks great. Oh, this is all coming together so good. So a lot of people have been asking, okay, can you subscribe to Fulton Fish Market? The answer is yes. So they have subscription boxes. Here's the thing, and I've never seen this before. Maybe that's just me. You can build your own. So if you want to have a salmon subscription or a catch of the day subscription or recipe subscription, you can subscribe monthly, weekly. They can do it however you want. It's almost like you get to build your own program. So if you want seafood to come on the regular, but let's say you love tilapia, great. They'll keep sending you tilapia. But let's say you want them to choose whatever's freshest. Great. You'll just get a new fish every week. So if you're really into kind of upping your seafood game, I really suggest going with one of these subscriptions, because it just kind of forces you to remember, oh yeah, I'm trying to eat more fish. I'm trying to be healthier. I'm trying to cook in a flash. So I love these subscriptions. I think they're the best in the market that I've seen when it comes to not only seafood, but food boxes in general. So check them out. You can really build it yourself on their website. All right. I can see, I like this clear little top. I can see that they're not open yet. You just kind of want to give them a second. You can peek every once in a while. Oh, and they're starting. I can see a little crack happening right there. They're starting. And once, it's kind of like popcorn, if you've ever made popcorn on the stove. One pops, and then they all start popping, and it's like craziness. So you kind of want to just be around for it. You kind of just want to babysit. This is go grab a glass of wine. I have a little water here. Throw on some music at this point. Get your family members around. At this point, they're smelling the clams in the air, and you just get this sweet ocean brininess from a clam. Clams, people are like, is it fishy if you don't eat clams? It's the most non-fishy thing out there. It's not fishy at all. It tastes like a mild ocean, like an ocean in a good way. It tastes, I don't know how to, salty and sweet. It's hard to describe a clam, but there's something about a clam that is unmatched. If you were to say, oh, I don't eat clams, I'd be like, I don't have a replacement for you. But if you were to say, I don't eat chicken, I'd be like, there's a million things you can do. So clams are just one of those special ingredients. So I'm putting my hand over the top, and I'm kind of shaking them a little. You don't have to dance like I am. This is just part of looking cool. But I'm just kind of shaking them just to make sure that now they're starting to kind of open up their shells. And I want that tomato sauce, I want them to drink it, right? And all that white wine and all those capers and all that good stuff. How we doing out there, Miss Chef Jenny?
Yes, chef. Can you go over why you used whole peeled tomatoes one more time? If you didn't mention.
I just like the texture. You can absolutely use strained tomatoes that are pulverized and already blended. You can use chopped tomatoes. You can use fresh tomatoes if it's summer and it's in season. But the whole ones I like to crush. I like the rusticity of it. I like the body of it. And every once in a while you get a nice big piece. And I like that. Again, to me, this all kind of reads homemade and just feels like, okay, I made this versus like it came out of a box. All right, check it out, guys. I'm going to start opening this up so you guys can kind of start seeing what I'm seeing. Hello, peekaboo. These guys are opening up, and they look stunning. You can see this guy. And look, they're all just one by one. And if you leave the door open at this point, you're going to start seeing them open. Like, I don't know if we're going to have that moment. Let's see if we can get a magic moment. Sometimes you need the lid to help you out there. But you kind of just stir these around, and you don't really want to stop until they're all open. You can see this guy. He wants to. He's just shy. He's just shy. He'll come. He'll come to the party. So I'm going to let it go for about another minute or so. I want every last clam to open up. Now, if you do steam these clams and one just doesn't open and the rest are open, toss that clam. Again, nothing to be worried about, but it's better to be on the safe side. Maybe there's a crack you didn't catch. Maybe there's something with the clam itself that no one could ever come up with. It's not going to hurt the sauce, nothing like that. There's no way you can open it. Why worry about it? Toss it. So there's just a level of that with clams and mussels that you just kind of have to be aware of. All right. These have about 30 more seconds. This is a perfect time. My pasta is al dente. It's really, really still got that toothsomeness to it. So I'm going to grab just a little ladle of my pasta water, which is still warm. I'm going to pour it over the pasta in the bowl, and this is going to loosen it up. You don't need to add the oil like I did. You can, but this is another great trick. We learned this when I was catering. And when you make pasta for like 300 people at a wedding, this is how you make pasta. You don't boil like, hot tubs worth of pasta and pull it all out. Like, this is how you do it. Now, I will say, finishing the pasta in the actual sauce with the clams is the only way to do this. So if I came over to your house and you put this pasta in a big bowl and then dumped the clams over the top, I don't know what I would do. I would have a meltdown at the table. Meltdown. No. I would just be like, throw that back on the stove. Let me help you. So really important that you give this pasta about a minute or so. Woo-hoo. Are we making enough here? My gosh. I love it. So pasta in, and at this point, I just start to kind of move everything around. The goal is I want this pasta to drink and soak in to every last bit of juice. See all this liquid here? No bueno. We want that to soak into the pasta and reduce down. Oh, baby. And when you do this, you just have this feel. You can hear kind of the clams themselves cracking. Not cracking, but like the clink of the clams. And that's just freshness to me. Look how beautiful that already looks. Like that looks like a cookbook right there. You can add some more cracked pepper. I like it. I like spicy, but you don't have to. Right? And again, you can taste, right? You can just give it a little noodle and see, okay, do I need a little more salt? Not for me. That's beautiful. That's exactly where I want it. So I'm giving this whole pasta like about a minute just to kind of marry. Now, the reason why I like to get the clams in the shell is because you can see how thin this sauce got. That is all the liquid. When I first shucked the clam and it came out, that is all that liquid going into the sauce. So that's why I'm very not pro. I mean, I'm sure Fulton sells it, so I'm not knocking Fulton, but I'm not pro of already shucked clams. I like to have the clam in the shells. They tell you when they're done, and they release this nectar, this little pocket of juice that you don't get with canned clams. You just frankly don't get it. So I know it's an extra step. You have to take them out of the clam. Big whoop. It's worth every last drop, in my opinion. All right. Am I getting emotional? Too emotional here for people today? My God. That's like a religion to me, these clams. All right. In we go with some fresh parsley. Again, we do this at the very end. Puttanesca, baby, at its best. Save a little bit for individual bowls. Again, I want to go gobble. I want to be like, oh my, mamma mia, this looks so good. Every chef I ever worked for would be very proud of me right now, including that one that didn't let me work at his restaurant. This is where you want it. Oh, and just kind of like letting the clams create little pools of that juice. That's how you know something in the world is worth living for right here. I mean, this to me is why I live. I live for food like this. Plopping this in front of my family, in front of loved ones, in front of friends. There's nothing I'm more proud of. And I think I don't know, I just think that clams, again, I asked you guys at the very beginning of this program, who cooks it, how often do you make it? No one does. So when you do bring it to the table, you see how easy it is. And people are just the fact that you made clams, people are blown away. And then they try it and they decide that they're going to do more clams themselves. So I start with the pasta. I go in for the pasta, and I just start kind of twisting. This is like if I was serving individual portions. Just kind of going right after that pasta and twisting it nice and high. Just like that. And then you kind of fill in the gaps with all your clams. Come on. Look at the meat on that clam. When it's that big and pronounced, who needs a steak? That is meaty. That's filling. That's stunning. Oh, amazing. Okay, I need a little more. This is a portion for probably 3, but 1 Joel. Beautiful. And then I just take the rest of this parsley, and I kind of just hit it. Now, this is me. You don't have to do this. But I always finish it with a little bit of olive oil. It kind of gets caught in each little clam, gives the pasta a little sheen here. And then I take a little clean towel and see all these little red bits? This is just restaurant Joel that you all have to kind of suffer through for right now. But I just kind of take my towel and I just go in and just kind of just dry those up. It just looks so much cleaner, so much more kind of thoughtful when you have those kind of dotted out. Oh, I want to go to a close-up so you guys can see. I mean, stop it. Just stop. That's it. Look at that clam. What are you talking about? You pick it up. First thing you do, you see inside the shell, just sauce, caught, pasta, caught, meaty clam. So I'm going to get in there. Just go after the clam itself. You can see it pops right out. You always have a little bowl. Oh my God. A little bowl for the clams themselves, the shells. And this is, to me, one of the best family dinners you can ever do. Now, I know that this program, we're hugging an hour here, but the sauce and the pasta itself, if I wasn't chatting so much about how much I love Fulton and how much I love the clams themselves, this thing would take 20 minutes to put together. We don't do cheese, but you can. Am I judging? Maybe. I don't think it needs it, but if you want to do cheese, you can do it. So I always give it a little swirl. I go after a clam. And I'll show you guys a cool trick after this. And then in we go. Try the whole thing here. The brothels had something right. That's all I have to say. They did something right. Maybe the most of it was wrong, but this is right. Oh my gosh. Insanity. Insanity. Everything you want in a pasta dish. Salty, completely balanced, briny. Now here's another cool trick. No joke, my kid likes to do this. So if you're just eating the clams and just steaming the clams, or you can do this with your pasta, you grab an already shucked one or one that you took it out, and you use that to kind of pull out the meat itself, and you can use this to eat it. It's like little chopsticks. I love it. I really hope, listen, any seafood that you get from Fulton, and we have another class coming up with them in December, we'll talk about that. Anything you get is going to be paramount. It's going to be amazing. But I really hope that a lot of you guys go for clams. You're getting $50 of store credit, so get what you want to get. I just hope, I pray that a lot of you guys make this recipe because it will change everything. When I ask that question in a year from now, I hope to see so many more hands and so many more people eating clams on the regular. So healthy for you, so cost efficient, and so damn delicious. Period. Now, let's talk about December, what's coming up. I just got chills. Bouillabaisse. I heard a lot of, I can't hear you, but I heard you. Bouillabaisse is coming up in December. If you don't know what bouillabaisse is, it's a Provençal fish kind of stew soup. It has clams, mussels, shrimp, halibut, cod, like whatever you want. It's meant to be like fish of the day. People are so intimidated by this bouillabaisse, and you soak it up with crusty bread, and we're making our own aioli with a little saffron in it to smear on that bread. This is very traditional, Provence, south of France. You soak it into that broth, and you see God, and you literally, you cannot stand up. You literally can't stand up. It tastes so good. It tastes so good. So that is coming up December. Keep an eye out. I think it's already posted, right, Jenny?
Yes, that's December 5th, Chef.
Okay, that's December 5th. Amazing. And of course, we always say this, but you can share anything you want and tag at Fulton Fish Market on social media. Go to their website right now, Fulton Fish Market. Again, they were started in 1822, 200 years to the year ago. So there is nothing more heritage, nothing more trusted, and nothing that we have such a pleasure to call partners with. Sustainable, thoughtful, the highest quality. Go now, use your credit. You will get an email, so I expect everyone to use it. And remember, the loyalty points on both the second and the first order. It's like free money, guys. Eat more seafood, dig in, dive in. I want to thank Fulton Fish Market all the way from New York City, who sets the bar for all seafood. And I want to thank you guys. It's Friday. It's the Friday of a holiday kind of weekend as we go into next week. Again, we're going to be meted out. This is the perfect time to really try something new and go enjoy incredibly fresh seafood. We'll catch you next time. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Have a great weekend. Hugs and kisses. And enjoy your spaghetti with clams Puttanesca, courtesy of Fulton Fish Market. See ya. I'm going to go down.